I had a text from our brother Olu today, and I haven't had the chance to respond because I want to go in and then explain it to him more. But he noticed that there was a difference between the Lord's Prayer. Well, this is something we've taught on, like, oh man, probably 6.5, 7 years ago. And it's the difference in the Lord's Prayer that there's one in Luke, there's none in Mark, and there's one in Matthew. And the differences and the reason for the difference in the Lord's Prayer is absolutely prophetic understanding. And I used to teach, when I talked about it a lot more back then, it's that I believe we should all be saying the Lord's Prayer in the context of what Luke's Lord's Prayer tells us. Okay? And when you do that, and if you do that, you're to also remember to pray for the Jews within your prayers. Okay? And I can explain this real quick without making a whole other teaching on it. I want to bring this up because in Luke's, it's a little bit different and you don't have the final part. And the reason it's not found in Mark's is because Luke and Mark, both portions, those who go to the third heaven and those who go to paradise, all of that group is part of the kingdom of God. The third heaven and paradise are part of the kingdom of God. But for the Jews, for their promise is their peace, their heaven on earth, which is why the kingdom of heaven is in Matthew. And it's the millennial reign. Their kingdom of heaven is, you see, in the Lord's Prayer, is directed to them. So we should all, but what you see in Matthew's is also this connection of praying for the Jews as well. But I used to teach on this, and what's awesome to understand is that we've all been taught, like I say, with the differences in the Gospels, we've all been taught from the Gospel of Matthew for hundreds of years. So every time, 99.9% of the time, when people say the Lord's Prayer, they say it from the Gospel of Matthew. Why did the Lord allow the world, the pre-trib and the mid-trib group, to be saying the Lord's Prayer for Matthew's portion? Because we're to pray for the Jews. And most people don't, in their prayers, pray for the Jews. And because they don't pray for the Jews independently, I believe the reason everybody was led to understand just the Matthew one is so that in praying the Lord's Prayer from Matthew, they are, unbeknownst to them, also praying for his people. So if you're going to say the Luke prayer, the Lord's Prayer in Luke, which I've been saying now for years since I understood it and started teaching on it, that's the one I always pray. I always, every single day of my life, I also pray for the Jews as well. So if you do that, remember to include the prayer for the Jews. Otherwise, just keep praying the other one. It's wild, right? Because the Lord knew we were all going to go to Matthew. He knew for hundreds of years it would be Matthew. But he told us to pray for the Jews, and most Christians, most believers don't pray for the Jews. And so by saying the Lord's Prayer, they're covering it even though they don't know. Wild stuff, man. So as this now comes to an end, I will show you